The front door clicked shut behind me. I expected the usual hum of the refrigerator or the faint sound of the television, but the apartment was unnervingly quiet. Then, a melody drifted from the bedroom, a soft, rhythmic track I had never played. I walked toward the hallway, my footsteps muffled by the rug. The air grew heavy, saturated with a familiar floral scent. It was the perfume I had given Claire for her birthday. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my hands remained steady. I reached the bedroom door and pushed it open. The music cut out. Daniel spun around, his face draining of color. Claire stood by the bed, frozen, her eyes wide. The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the sound of their ragged breathing. Daniel opened his mouth, his jaw working as he searched for a lie. I did not scream. I did not reach for a weapon or demand an explanation. Instead, I held up a hand to silence him. I let a slow, calm smile spread across my face. It was not a smile of hurt, but of absolute terrifying clarity. I looked at them, and for the first time, I felt the power shift. "You have 10 minutes," I said. They scrambled to gather their things, their movements frantic and uncoordinated. I retreated to the kitchen, the hardwood floor cold beneath my feet. As the kettle began to whistle, my mind drifted to the 2 years I had spent building a life with Daniel. I remembered the rooftop bar, the way he laughed when he spilled his drink, and the long nights spent talking. Then there was Claire. She had been the anchor during my darkest hours, holding my hair back at my father's funeral. I had been a fool, blinded by the comfort of a history that was apparently built on sand. The kettle clicked off, leaving the apartment in a suffocating silence. I poured the tea, the steam rising in thin grey ribbons. The past was a collection of lies, and the weight of their deception finally settled into a sharp, focused resolve. The tea grew cold in the ceramic mug. I did not touch it. I watched them leave, the front door latching with a final hollow thud that echoed through the empty apartment. I did not pace. I did not call anyone to vent. I walked to my desk and opened my laptop. The screen glowed, casting a sharp, blue light across the room. I created a new folder and typed a single word as the title, "The Evidence." My fingers moved across the keys with a rhythmic, mechanical precision. I started with the dates. I logged the nights Daniel claimed to be working late, cross-referencing them with the times Claire had suddenly cancelled our plans. I pulled up old text threads, searching for the subtle inconsistencies I had once ignored. Every lie was a data point. Every betrayal was a piece of leverage. I felt no anger, only a strange, clinical focus. I was not a victim anymore. I was an architect of their undoing. By the time the sun began to bleed through the blinds, the file was complete. I closed the laptop and stared at the dark screen. I was finally ready to paint. The morning light hit the desk, but I did not feel the warmth. I opened my phone. My thumbs hovered over the screen, steady and deliberate. I typed to Daniel, "I have had time to think. I do not want to lose you. Can we talk?" I hit send and watched the cursor blink. He replied within seconds, his desperation leaking through the digital text. He was hooked. Next, I turned to Claire. I typed, "I know you feel terrible. I am not ready to lose my best friend over this." I waited. The phone vibrated against the wood. She called immediately. I answered, letting my voice crack just enough to sound fragile, just enough to sound like the Maya they thought they knew. She wept, pouring out apologies, claiming it was a one-time mistake, a lapse in judgment. I listened, nodding as if she were in the room, offering soft reassurances that fed her need for absolution. I played the part perfectly. I told them both I needed time to heal. As I hung up, I felt the final piece of the trap lock into place. They were relieved. They were wrong. I needed to be sharper than them. I started at 6 a.m., pushing my body through grueling gym sessions until my muscles burned and my mind cleared. The cold showers became my morning ritual, a shock to the system that kept me focused. I spent hours overhauling my portfolio, refining every design until it was flawless. I was rebuilding myself into something they would not recognize. At home, the atmosphere shifted. I let Daniel back into my space, but only just enough to make him feel secure. I watched him grow careless. He stopped hiding his movements. He started leaving his phone on the kitchen counter, unlocked, while he went to make coffee. He was convinced he had escaped the consequences of his betrayal. He joked, he laughed, he acted as if nothing had ever happened. One afternoon, while he was in the shower, the phone buzzed on the table. I walked over, my heart steady, and looked down at the screen. The barrier was gone. I picked it up, and for the first time, I saw the full extent of their arrogance. I was no longer just documenting the past. I was hunting for the end. The apartment was quiet. Daniel slept in the bedroom, his breathing rhythmic and heavy, completely unaware that his world was about to dissolve. I sat in the dim light of the kitchen, the glow of my laptop screen, the only illumination. I had the files ready. 3 screenshots, clear and damning, showing the messages he had sent to Claire while I was sitting right beside him. They proved he had lifted his entire campaign concept from a competitor. I navigated to the brand manager's LinkedIn profile. My finger hovered over the trackpad. I attached the files. I wrote a brief, professional note stating that for the integrity of their brand, they should see this. I clicked send. The progress bar moved, then vanished. It was done. I closed the lid of the laptop and stood up. The silence in the room felt different now, heavy with the weight of the coming morning. I walked to the window and looked out at the city lights. I did not feel a rush of adrenaline. I felt only a cold, precise satisfaction. I poured a glass of water, my hand perfectly still. The morning light hit the kitchen table, but I was already gone. I waited for the call. At 10 in the morning, Daniel stood in the glass-walled conference room, his hands gesturing toward the projection screen. He was mid-sentence, explaining the core of his campaign. When the brand manager stood up, the room went silent. The manager did not shout. He simply walked to the front, placed a tablet on the table, and tapped the screen. Daniel looked down, his face drained of color. He tried to speak, but his voice caught. The manager pointed toward the door. Daniel gathered his things, his movements jerky and uncoordinated. He did not look back at the board or the team. He walked out of the office, his head down, the security badge already removed from his chest. By noon, the news was official. My phone buzzed on the counter. I set the phone down, walked to the window, and watched the city traffic move below. With Daniel gone, the focus shifted to the other half of the betrayal. Claire was still posting, her feed a curated stream of sponsored lifestyle content and polished photos. She was busy selling a version of life that did not exist. I opened her latest post, a sponsored advertisement for a high-end skincare line. I did not write a paragraph of accusations. I typed a single, precise sentence into the comment box. "Would love to know how real the friendships in your life actually are, Claire." I hit enter. The reaction was not immediate, but it was inevitable. Within an hour, the comment had been liked hundreds of times. Followers began to question the authenticity of her brand deals. By the next morning, the skincare company had issued a statement distancing themselves. Her comment section turned into a battlefield. She tried to delete the comment, but the screenshots were already circulating. Her follower count plummeted. By Friday, her blog was silent, and her inbox was empty of offers. The destruction was complete. 3 months passed in total silence. I spent my days building, refining, and reclaiming the parts of myself I had once surrendered to others. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, a knock echoed through the apartment. I opened the door to find Daniel. He stood on the landing, his posture collapsed, his eyes searching mine for a flicker of the woman he thought he could manipulate. He looked at me, his voice barely a whisper, and said, quote, "I made a mistake. I need you." I did not feel anger. I did not feel the need to argue or explain. I looked at the man who had traded our history for a moment of convenience, and I felt nothing but a profound, quiet peace. I did not invite him in. I did not offer a second chance. I simply shook my head and closed the door. The latch clicked into place, final and absolute. I turned back to my desk, where a digital contract waited for my signature. The luxury brand's creative director had seen my portfolio, and the offer was there, a six-figure contract that validated every hour of work. I picked up the pen and signed my name. I had found myself in the wreckage they left behind. I walked to the mirror, caught my own reflection, and let that same steady, terrifying smile spread across my face. I was finally, completely free.